Dust clouded the horizon as my truck rumbled into Ranch, Texas. Daniel Carter, Supreme Court Justice, 50, was bone-tired from a grueling session. In Washington, the sun dipped low, casting gold over my family's ranch, but my breath caught when I saw it. The fence, our fence, gone. Splintered posts littered the pasture's edge. Some snapped, some bulldozed flat, wire tangled, like forgotten rope. This wasn't just a fence. It was history, built by my grandfather in 1947, repaired by my father, restored by me. 3 generations, carved into oak, each post a story. More than that, it was registered, a federal historic landmark, protected by preservation laws. Now, it was rubble. A neon sign, staked nearby, screamed. Lakeside Ridge, HOA's logo. Bold, smug, unauthorized structure. Removed. For community safety. LRA compliance. My fists clenched. I grabbed my phone, snapped photos. Every angle, every broken plank. They didn't know they'd crossed a justice. I'd keep my title close. For now, let them think I was just a rancher. The pasture stretched silent under the Texas sky. That fence, 500 yards, marked my land, kept cattle safe, held memories of my father teaching me to hammer nails. Now, I couldn't even walk the boundary without tripping on their mess. I heard boots crunch. Justice Carter. You okay? Martin. My ranch hand. 55. Weathered face. Lined deep. Eyes wide. On the wreckage. HOA did this, I said. Voice ice. The ones who claimed no interest in your land. Last month, he asked, brow raised. I nodded. Slow. They don't know who I am. Not arrogance. Fact. They saw a man with dirt on his boots, not someone who shaped the nation's laws with contacts in every court. I wouldn't flash my robe. Yet, timing was everything. Days before, I'd noticed strangers in khakis, clipboards in hand, pacing my land. Surveyors, I thought, or developers. I'd ignored it. Now, I saw their game. Martin helped gather posts, stacking them by the barn. We didn't speak. The silence, heavy, like the air, before a storm. At dusk, I marched to the HOA office. Glass facade, fake stone, a fountain, dry, mocking the drought. Inside, Tara, 22, receptionist, chewed gum, eyes bored. I need whoever bulldozed my fence, I said, voice steady. You are, she mumbled. Daniel Carter, Justice Carter. No flicker in her gaze. She tapped her screen. Lazy. You're not an HOA member, sir. I know, I said. My ranch isn't your land. That fence wasn't yours to touch. Confusion creased her face. A tall man, balding, stepped out, name tag gleaming. Ed Branson, 48, HOA Vice President. His smirk, sharp, eyes glinting, like a coyote's. Problem, Mr. Carter? He asked, arms crossed. You destroyed a historic fence on federally protected land, I said. Cool. Precise. He laughed. Short. Dismissive. That old thing. A hazard. Homeowners complained. Said it looked run down. Did you check? With the county, the state, the Federal Preservation Office. I pressed. Ed shrugged. Casual. Didn't need to. We're cleaning up the area. You broke federal law, I said. Flat. His smirk widened. Look, if it's about a permit, we'll sort it. Judge or not, you're in our community. I'm not. I cut in, voice steel. My ranch sits outside your reach. Always has. Tara's eyes widened, catching the weight. Eddie, too smug, didn't flinch. Maybe it's time. Your land joined us, he said, voice low. Testing. I stared, unblinking. So, that was it. Not safety. Power. They wanted my 200 acres to swell. Their fees. Their control. I turned, walked out. His laugh, trailing me. That night, in my study, I pulled records from the Department of the Interior. The fence. Listed. Protected. Since 1995. With inspections. Articles. From the local paper. Praising its heritage. Destroying it. A federal offense. I called Hannah Thomas, DOJ investigator. My old clerk. Hannah, I've got a case, I said. HOA overreach. On steroids. Her voice. Crisp. Send everything. Justice. I did. Photos. Memos. The sign's text. The wheels were turning. Back at the ranch, I stood. Where the fence once stood. Stars bright. Above. Martin joined me. His shadow. Long. They'll regret this, he said. Quiet. I nodded. My mind already mapping their downfall. Ed's smirk, his arrogance, would bury him. The HOA thought they'd won. They'd just lit a fuse to their own destruction. Ed Branson's smirk lingered like a bad taste. My ranch's fence, a federal landmark, bulldozed by Lakeside Ridge, HOA. A rancher. I was a force. They'd underestimated their crime. My weapon, the Texas dusk, settled, stars sharp, over ranch. I stood where my grandfather's posts once stood and vowed they'd pay. That night, I called Hannah Thomas, DOJ investigator, my former clerk. Hannah, Lakeside Ridge, destroyed. A protected fence, I said, voice low. I need records. She was crisp, efficient. On it. Justice. Send photos. Memos. I did. Every splinter. Every smug word. On their sign. The fence. Listed. Since 1995. With inspections. Local articles. Proving its heritage. Their demolition. A federal offense. Plain. And simple. By Dawn. Martin. My ranch hand. 55. And I. Rigged trail cams. Motion sensors. Signs blaring. Crime scene. Federal property. Your building. A fortress, Martin said, gray eyes glinting as he hammered. A post, not a fortress, I replied. A trap. The HOA thought I'd fold. They didn't know my courtroom was this ranch, and I'd already sworn an oath. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed. 1-8-ma. A trail cam. Triggered. I opened the app. Heart racing. 3 men in black hoodies, flashlights dim, crept along the pasture's edge. One kicked my sign, snapping it. Another planted flags, marking my land. The third snapped photos, his camera flashing like a thief's signal. Martin, already awake, grabbed the ATV keys. Let's move, he said, face hard. We coasted, lights off, tires whispering, over grass. The night, cold, air sharp, only the hum of crickets near the boundary. We spotted them, crouched, sketching maps. I flipped the headlights. They froze, like startled deer. One bolted, dropping a clipboard. You're trespassing on federal land, I shouted, my phone recording. The 2 left, stammered. We're just lost. Their faces, pale, eyes wide. Caught, I snapped. Their photos, before they ran, stumbling into the dark. Martin chuckled, picking up the clipboard. Wrong ranch. Fools. It held notes, coordinates, a sketch of my land, labeled Phase 2 Expansion. My blood chilled. This wasn't random. Lakeside Ridge wasn't just cleaning up. They wanted my 200 acres for their empire. I filed the photos, timestamps, clipboard scans with Sheriff Delgado, 40, a steady man. He saw my credentials and blinked. Justice Carter, Supreme Court. Yes, I said. That fence was protected by federal law. By noon, deputies combed the ranch, logging evidence. Then, a text from an unknown number. Coffee stop. Tenna. Tomorrow. I know. About Ed. My pulse quickened. Secrets meant cracks in their armor. I replied, I'll be there. At the diner, a dusty joint, far from HOA cameras. I met Clara Holt, 35, former HOA clerk. Her hands shook, setting down a folder. I quit last month, she said, voice low, brown eyes darting. Ed's targeting your land for a developer, Miami-based. She slid the folder across the table. Emails, maps, a memo from Ed to a firm called Horizon Estates, Carter's Ranch. Key to Phase 2. It read, remove fence, claim violation, push foreclosure. My jaw tightened. They'd planned to bury me in fake fine, to steal my legacy. Why help me? I asked, studying her tired face. Clara's voice cracked. Ed ruined my family's lot with fines. Your fence was my line. The folder held more, a list of 10 properties Swallowed. By Lakeside Ridge. Over 5 years. Elderly owners. Absent heirs. Always. Violations. No proof. My mind. Raced. A pattern. Clear. Like a case. Before my bench. Ed's. Not alone. Clara warned. Horizon. Has deep pockets. Maybe. A senator. I nodded. Slow. A network. Meant. Weak links. To break. Back at the ranch. I spread. The papers. Across my desk. Martin. Leaned in. Scanning. The memo. They're bold. He said. Voice grim. Or stupid. I replied. Ed's arrogance. His greed was a noose. Tightening. I called. Hannah. Again. We've got a conspiracy, I said. Sending. Clara's folder. Check. Horizon Estates. Miami. Her tone. Sharpened. This. Could be. Rico. Justice. I hung up. Staring. At the broken posts. Outside. The HOA. Thought. They'd cowed me. They'd just woken. A giant. The Texas night. Hummed. With tension. Lakeside Ridge HOA. Had shattered. My ranch's fence. A federal landmark. Held proof. Of their greed. Ed Branson's plan. To steal. My land. Was unraveling. But they didn't stop. They struck. Harder. And I was ready to strike back. Clara's folder. Burned. In my mind. Emails. Maps. Showed Ed. And Horizon Estates. Plotting. To swallow. My 200 acres. I sent. Everything. To Hannah Thomas. DO investigator. This smells. Like Rico. She said. Voice sharp. Horizon's offshore accounts. Are under scrutiny. My resolve. Hardened. The fence. My grandfather's legacy. Wasn't just wood. It was a line. They'd crossed. By dawn. Martin. My ranch hand. 55. And I checked. The trail cams. Footage showed. A white sedan. Circling. My gate. At midnight. License plate. Ridgecom. The HOA's internet arm. They're watching. Martin said. Eyes narrow. Adjusting. A sensor. I nodded. Installing. More signs. Federal property. No trespass. But that night, a boom. Shook. The ranch. Smoke. Rose. From the back pasture. Martin burst. Into my study. They torched. The shed. We ran. Boots pounding. To the blaze. The shed. Tools. Wire. Feed. Engulfed. Flames dancing. High. A gas can. Shattered. Lay yards away. No accident. Arson. Martin sprayed. A fire extinguisher. Useless. I grabbed. The hose. But the shed was gone. They're sending. A message. I said. Voice grim. Filming. The scorch marks. Martin's face. Tightened. They picked the wrong man. The next morning, Sheriff Delgado, 40, arrived. With deputies. Justice Carter, he said, eyeing my credentials. This is a federal crime scene. Bomb squad. Confirmed. Accelerant. Used. I handed over. Trail cam footage. Showing a hooded figure. Near the shed. Hours before. Ridgecom's sedan was there. 2. I said. Delgado's jaw set. We'll trace it. Then, a letter arrived. Red stamped. Notice of foreclosure intent. Lakeside Ridge. Claimed. $30. Son. In fake dues. Violations. Penalties. If unpaid. Within 30 days. Property seizure. Authorized. It read. My stomach twisted. They wanted my ranch, my home, my grandfather's dream. I scanned the notice, sent it to Hannah. Fraudulent lien, I said, voice cold. They're desperate. That evening, Martin shouted, from the north pasture, the cattle, they're gone. The gate, chain cut, hung loose. We jumped into the truck, headlights sweeping, the dark, miles out. We found the herd, scattered, near the woods, confused, restless. 2 hours to round them up, sweat-soaked, hearts pounding. This is war, Martin growled, locking the gate. I nodded, filming the cut chain. They're threatening. Lives. Now. Back home. My phone. Pinged. A text. From Clara. Meet me. Coffee stop. Urgent. At the diner. Her hands trembled as she handed a USB drive. Ed's shredding files. She whispered. Brown eyes. Scared. This has Horizon's contracts with a senator, William Tate. My pulse raced. A senator. This was bigger than ranch. The drive held emails. Ed to Tate, discussing land acquisition. By any means, they'd planned to devalue my ranch with sabotage, then foreclose. Why risk this? I asked, studying Clara's face. Ed find my parents into bankruptcy, she said, voice breaking. Your fight is mine. I nodded, pocketing the drive. Stay low, Clara. They're watching. Everyone. She left, head down, a shadow. In the dusk, I called. Hannah, Senator Tate's involved, I said, sending the files. We're building a task force, she replied. Your ranch is ground zero. At the ranch, Martin cleaned the gate's lock, his hands steady. They're scared, he said, voice low. Scared means sloppy, I replied. But then my internet dropped. I checked the telecom box outside. Wires cut. Ridgecom's logo on a discarded tool. I filmed the damage. Called Delgado. Theft and sabotage. I said, deputies arrived. Logging the scene. A deputy, young, 28, named Rob, whistled. Your Supreme Court. Sir? Yes, I said. And there, digging their grave. That night, a drone buzzed over the barn. I grabbed my net launcher, snagged it, midair. Its tracker blinked, linked to Horizon. I sent the serial number to Hannah. They're surveilling you, she warned. Stay sharp. I stood by the pasture, stars above, broken posts at my feet. Ed's empire was cracking, but his desperation meant danger. My grandfather's fence was gone, but its spirit fueled me. The HOA thought they'd break me. They'd just forged their own chains. Sunlight cut through the kitchen window, sharp as a verdict. I stood at the sink, mug in hand, black coffee swirling, thoughts darker still. They burned my shed, scattered my cattle, cut my wires. But now I had names, files, contracts, a senator, a developer, a crooked HOA, and was more than a rancher. I was the law, and they were about to learn what justice really meant. Martin stepped in, dirt on his boots, fire in his eyes. Got a call, he said, voice low. Clara's gone. Didn't show for work, her landlord says. She packed up, middle of the night. I froze, mug clinking, against the sink. She ran, I said, heart sinking. Or someone made her? Martin nodded. Solemn. We gotta move before they bury every loose end. I drove straight to Austin. No robe, no bailiff, just a battered truck and a USB drive full of rot. Hannah met me in a federal building, sleek, sterile, buzzing with agents. We verified everything, she said, eyes fierce. Senator Tate received campaign money from Horizon Estates, funneled through Shell Corps, all tied to Lakeside Ridge. She slid over a binder, subpoenas, arrest memos, sealed indictments. My breath caught. It's time, I said. Hit them, all at once. The next morning, the storm broke. Federal agents rolled into Lakeside Ridge like thunder. SUVs, bulletproof vests, radios crackling, HOA offices raided, computers bagged, phones seized. Tara, the receptionist, sobbed as agents questioned her. Ed Branson, swagger gone, was dragged out, in cuffs, spitting, protesting. You can't do this, he yelled. I own this place. I stepped forward, slow, deliberate. You owned nothing, I said, voice like gravel. You destroyed federal property, extorted residents, colluded with criminals. He blinked, recognizing me. Too late. You're a Supreme Court Justice, I finished, cold, his face drained, like someone staring down a sentence. The media circled like vultures, cameras flashing. I didn't stop. I held the binder high. This community was held hostage by greed. Not anymore. That night, back at the ranch, I walked the northern pasture. Wind tugged at my coat. Grass swayed like old memories. Martin joined me, silent. Then, a sound. Hammering. Flashlights. Volunteers. Neighbors. Old ranchers. Rebuilding the fence. Post by post. A boy, maybe 10, handed me a plank. Initials carved. DC 2025. I swallowed. Hard. They came. I whispered. Martin smiled. You stood up. They followed. The fence would rise again. But so would something bigger. A law. A bill I was drafting. To limit HOA overreach. Forever. Ed. Horizon. Senator Tate would face trials. The community would reclaim its land. and its dignity. Justice wasn't just a bench. It was a boundary, and mine was oak, nailed, with memory and fire. Morning broke, harsh and cold, the wind cutting through mesquite like a warning. My ranch, scarred, burned shed, cut fences, felled legacy, but now the fire was theirs. The USB Clara gave me turned the tide. Senator Tate tied to Horizon Estates. Their paper trail, ugly, undeniable. Hannah's task force moved fast. Subpoenas issued. Federal gears grinding. But justice is slow. I needed speed. I needed the court of public opinion. I stood on the porch, phone in hand. "You sure about this?" Martin asked, eyes wary. "They need to see," I said. "Steady." I hit record, camera front-facing, the sun rising behind me. "This is Daniel Carter," I began. "Supreme Court Justice, fifth-generation Texan. And this is my ranch." My voice, low, controlled, laced with fury. I showed the charred shed, the broken fence, the cut telecom, the foreclosure notice. This is what happens when a corrupt HOA, backed by greed, tries to erase a family's legacy. I posted it everywhere. X, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, ranch forums, legal circles. Within hours, the views climbed. People shared, commented, outrage growing. Hashtags formed. Justice for the ranch. Whole corruption. Tate Gate. My inbox. Flooded. Reporters, lawyers, neighbors, old colleagues. Support rolled in like a storm front. By noon, I stood with Sheriff Delgado and federal agents as they searched the HOA office. Ed Branson, pale, for once, not smirking. "What's this about?" he snapped. "Public land theft, arson, fraud," Hannah said, flashing her badge, "and tampering with a federal landmark. Papers seized, computers boxed." Tara, the gum-snapping receptionist, slouched, whispering to a deputy. "Weak link." I watched as they hauled files marked expansion strategy, foreclosure pipeline, acquisition map. Martin whistled, low. "That's not a plan. That's a war board." I nodded, and we just seized their ammo. But backlash came fast. That night, my inbox pinged. Death threats, fake foreclosure updates, doctored photos of me, with headlines like "Disgraced Justice," Horizon's media tentacles. Desperate, slinging mud. Clara called, shaken. "They're attacking your credibility." I smiled, grim. "Let them try." I called Megan Hall, anchor at Lone Star News. "You want the real story?" I asked. She did. Next morning, a crew arrived, cameras sweeping, the ranches scarred. I walked them through the sabotage, Clara's folder, the drone, the files linking Tate. Megan's eyes, sharp, jaw tight. "This is bigger than zoning," she said. "It's criminal conspiracy." I nodded. "And it ends here." The segment aired. Prime time. Flames behind me. Justice in my voice. Ratings soared. Public pressure mounted. By midnight, Senator Tate's office. released a statement, unaware of any wrongdoing. The usual dance. But I danced. In D. C. Too long. To miss the tremble. In a politician's breath. Back at the ranch. Stars wide. Cattle calm. Martin handed me a printout. Online petition. 200,000 signatures. Calling for Ed's arrest and Tate's investigation. I stared at the names. The tide. Finally turning. I never wanted fame, I said. Voice low. Just the fence. My grandfather built. Martin nodded. Quiet. But now. You're building something bigger. He was right. They took my fence. I was taking their empire. Thank you for watching. This isn't just my story. It's a voice for anyone who's ever been bullied by power-hungry organizations hiding behind the word progress. Your support, every view, every like, every comment gives strength to the fight for justice.